Your marriage is only as healthy as you are. Because in order for your marriage to be successful, there are some key things that need to happen between the two of you. You've got to have good communication, intimacy, teamwork, and shared goals. And the truth is, your marriage isn't determined by how perfect your partner is or how few arguments you have. It's rooted in how much you're each willing to grow.
Welcome to the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Perda. As a marriage coach who's married with 3 kids, I know how much parenthood could change a marriage. If flirting, laughing, and having fun together feels like a thing of the past, then I'm here to teach you that marriage doesn't have to feel so hard with your parents, and your marriage can thrive even when you're in the season of raising kids. Whether you're in a good place in your marriage and you just want to continue growing together, or you're wondering if you even like your spouse anymore, this podcast has something for you. Join me here each week as we dive into what it takes to help your marriage grow, and maybe even do a 180. You'll learn ways to handle conflict better, bring that spark back into your relationship, as well as learn how to improve other areas of your life from my lovely guest experts. Are you ready for the next stage of your life and marriage? Let's dive in.
Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. So when you think about a successful marriage, what do you think about? People usually think about how long someone's been married, right? If you talk to older generations, they are sharing how long they've been married and how they've been through their challenges, and they're still married. And while there are couples who are successful in their own right, being married for decades isn't necessarily automatic success. Here's why I think that. Take 2 couples. Let's say they've both been married for 50 years. On the surface level, it's like, wow, that is an incredible accomplishment to spend 50 plus years together and still choose to be together. But when you look deeper, one couple can't stand each other. They constantly argue. They don't even do anything together. They are just together because they don't want to get divorced. So whether that's because originally they wanted to stay together for the kids, they don't want to go through the inconvenience of being divorced, or they don't think that they can find anything better. The list goes on and on. And another couple, they truly look like they are best friends. They enjoy time together. You can tell they're true partners. You can tell that there's a deep connection between them two. They laugh together. They're very much a couple. So like I said, on the surface, hearing that someone's been married for 50 years sounds like quite the accomplishment. But letting time pass is not an accomplishment. It's the work that's done in the marriage that is the accomplishment. So today I'm going to dive into how your marriage is only as healthy as you are. Because in order for your marriage to be successful, there are some key things that need to happen between the two of you. You've got to have good communication, intimacy, teamwork, and shared goals. And the truth is that your marriage isn't determined by how quote unquote perfect your partner is or how few arguments you have. It's rooted in how much you're each willing to grow. So in this episode, I'm going to share 3 ways that we as individuals determine the success of our marriage through self-awareness, personal growth, and taking emotional responsibility. Now, here's why this matters. Yes, it takes 2 people to be married. And who do we have control over? Sometimes we like to think we have control over our husbands, but we don't. We have heavy influence over them. And with that heavy influence, the best way we can influence them is by how we show up. And we only have control over ourselves. Why this matters is people often get married assuming that that's the pinnacle of their life, their relationship together. The wedding is like, oh my gosh, yay! But there's so much life after marriage, right? There's so much life. There's a lot of changes. There's a lot of milestones. There's just a lot that we go through together. And we expect our partner to fulfill a lot of what we need. And when we rely on our spouse to meet every single need that we have, what we're actually doing is delegating that to our partner, when really the job is meant for ourselves. We need to learn to meet ourselves, to fulfill ourselves. But when we put that on our spouse, what we're doing is we're actually setting both of us for disappointment. You see, a healthy, fulfilling relationship isn't built on neediness. How much do we need each other? No, it's built on wholeness. When both partners can take ownership of their own growth, their own healing and happiness, the relationship naturally becomes more connected and balanced and safe. Do you remember the movie Wedding Crashers? I can't believe it. I just Googled it, and that movie is 20 years old. Cool. Cool. Anyway, I just feel really old right now, even though I know I'm not really old. But anyway, I can't believe that movie is 20 years old. But if you remember that movie, there's a term that was used in that movie that has stuck for all this time. And that's stage 5 clinger. So the character that Isla Fisher played was described as a stage 5 clinger. And I want you to think about the energy that brings on, right? Someone that like needs you, and like it's like they're just grabbing at you, your attention, your time, your everything all of the time. That doesn't feel so good. Versus you being able to show up as you are, giving what you can, meeting you where you're at. What feels better to you? When you're able to just both come in whole, that's when you can just be together and enjoy each other's company, not expecting too much from each other. Obviously, respect, right? But just being friends together who also happen to be intimate and have a deep partnership and parent together and live together and love each other, right? But when this happens, when all of that exists, you'll notice that you stop fighting about a lot of things. And you're able to cut through to conflict a lot easier, a lot faster, a lot calmer. Because all of that other stuff, you know it doesn't matter, or that's not the truth of what's happening. And I want this for you all. And if you're looking at your marriage right now and you're like, we are so far from that. Okay, that's where you're at. That's your starting point. That's okay. That doesn't mean it's your end point, right? You can look at it as it can only get better from here. And it does take taking that first step, making that change, trying something new, or maybe working with me as your marriage coach to change whatever is going on with you, to improve that dynamic between you and your spouse, right? Because that phrase exists for a reason. Nothing changes if nothing changes. So what are you going to introduce into your marriage that's different? So think about that. And in the meantime, I'm going to share 3 ways that you can determine the success of your marriage. Number 1 being how much we're growing personally. A thriving marriage happens when both people are growing emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. If you're stagnant or avoiding growth, your relationship will feel stuck too, because our relationship is a mirror of our relationship with ourselves. So what this can look like when you're growing is learning to regulate your emotions instead of reacting during conflict. Challenging old beliefs that you learn about love, gender roles, or communication. Practicing vulnerability, even when it feels uncomfortable. Because vulnerability is what helps us have those deeper conversations, develop deeper levels of emotional intimacy with our partner that help us cut through to the core of the issue so that you can use conflict as a springboard to grow from and help your relationship evolve. And I also want to add that while growth is going to support your marriage into improving and feeling better, growth doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean that as soon as you learn a skill, that you will know to use that skill every single time. We are human, and sometimes we're going to be out of it, whether we are really stressed out, whether we are really emotional, whether we are triggered by something, whether we're hangry, whether we're tired. There's lots of different things can be going on, right? Whether we're in our luteal phase, whether we're perimenopausal, whether we're menopausal, whatever, right? There's a lot of things that can be happening. Growth doesn't mean perfection. It means you're committed to learning. It means you're committed to improving and doing your best to improve. And sometimes what your best is on one day is going to be different than your best on a different day. Okay? Number 2, we can also determine how successful our marriage will be by how self-aware we are in the relationship. Success in marriage is often measured by how willing we are to look in the mirror. And I don't mean an actual mirror where we get to see our physical appearance. I mean taking an inward look at our actions, our intentions, how we're communicating, how we're showing up, looking at the sides that maybe sometimes we're reluctant to look at because we don't like what we're seeing, right? This level of self-awareness helps you recognize your triggers, your expectations, your patterns, so you can stop projecting them onto your partner. Some examples could be catching yourself when you're shutting down instead of blaming your spouse for not getting it, or realizing that resentment often means that you have a need or a boundary that you need to address. Or understanding how your upbringing influences how you handle conflict, and maybe a need to unlearn some things and learn some new things and fumble through those new things because they feel foreign. The more you understand yourself, the safer your partner will feel that they can be themselves too. The more self-aware you are, the more impactful and productive your conversations will be. So instead of the typical of, being triggered and then you use your coping mechanism where you're slipping into a fight or flight reaction, right? Whether you are feeling the need to be critical or blame, or maybe you shut down, or maybe you just stand there because you're frozen, you don't know what to do, or you say things to just move the situation along, even though it's not exactly how you feel or what you want. That's what creates spirals, right? When we allow the hurt part of ourselves to run the show, to navigate the conflict, rather than acknowledging that a part of us is hurt, recognizing it, and talking about it, rather than handling it through that filter. The third thing that can determine the success of our marriage is by how responsible we are for our own happiness. Many people unconsciously make their partner responsible for how they feel, which creates pressure, resentment, and emotional dependency. But when you learn how to meet your own needs, your emotional needs, your marriage shifts from you complete me to we complement each other. We're choosing to walk through life together. We're choosing to be partners in this. The latter is way more empowering rather than this other feeling of like we're somehow broken without them. But remember, the goal is for us two to be whole, to approach the marriage as two whole beings. So taking time for yourself and being responsible for your own happiness looks like taking time for yourself instead of expecting your spouse to fix your mood. Owning your emotional responses, aka your reactions, instead of saying you made me mad and justifying your bad behavior because something they did ended up upsetting you, as if you think that they did it purposefully to upset you. Also, taking time to care for yourself and your well-being and your personal fulfillment so your marriage isn't carrying the weight of all of your needs. Whether you're feeling burnt out or lost, your happiness is your job. It's like that one phrase, happiness is an inside job. It's not happiness is your husband's job. Or if you're a husband listening, it's not happiness is your wife's job. Happiness is an inside job. Your partner's happiness is their job. And the relationship can thrive when both people take ownership of their own happiness. Now, can we do things out of love to support them in being happy? Of course. But that's like the cherry on top. That's not something that should be required of us. That is to add to their life. It's supplemental. It's not a replacement. So yeah, your husband can do all these things to make you happy, but you already need to be happy for that to have the effect that you're wanting. So if you are like, oh, my husband does so much for me and I still don't feel happy, that's because you're not doing things for your own happiness. So I want you to start reflecting on where you've been outsourcing your responsibility for your happiness and growth. I also want you to commit to a small area of personal development, whether that's working on how you handle your emotions, how you communicate, right? Whether that's how you approach certain topics, how you react, and also boundaries. That's a big one. I also want you to celebrate your growth. You don't have to be perfect for you to be happy about how much you've grown. If you even just look back to a year ago, how have you improved? Small wins are just as important, if not more important, to celebrate than the big ones, because the big ones are made up of the small wins. So give yourself grace, know that you are doing your best, and remember that the goal isn't to be perfect. It's just to be aware, accountable, and committed to growth, okay? So if you often feel like your happiness depends on your spouse's behavior, or you feel stuck in patterns of blame, resentment, or disappointment, or you feel disconnected and you want to reignite that intimacy with your spouse, emotional or physical or both, and you're ready to take ownership of your side of the relationship and grow, then maybe it's time for you to book a clarity call with me. This is exactly the type of work that I do with my clients. The way I do marriage coaching is very different than most. I actually work with you on an individual level and the two of you as a couple, because I so firmly believe that your relationship with yourself is vital to your relationship with your spouse. In order for you to have the success and the happiness and the fulfillment and the joy and all of that good stuff in your marriage, that inner work needs to happen. So if this is something that you are deeply wanting, that you want to feel like, yeah, I want to feel like my marriage is on solid ground. I want to feel like my marriage is enjoyable again. I want to feel like we are truly great partners together and that we can talk about anything and grow from it and have fun together again and be light and joyful like a couple who's still dating, even though we're raising kids. Then book a clarity call with me, okay? The link is in the show notes. I'd love to connect with you and talk about how coaching can help you. And that's all I have for you today. If you know someone that could benefit from listening to this episode, please share this with them. Better yet, share this in your stories and tag me so I can give you a shout out. If you love this show, I'm so glad you're here. Please consider leaving a rating and review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. That's what helps this show grow and helps more people like you get the support that they need. And thanks for listening. I'll catch you back here on the next episode. Bye.
That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you did, please send me a message over on Instagram at Michelle Perda Coaching to let me know what you loved most about it. Hearing from my listeners is my absolute favorite. And if you've been loving this podcast, please leave a rating and review. This will help people like you find the show and get the help they need. Catch you here on the next episode. Bye.